You spent 40 years building your name, your stability, and your legacy, believing that the finish line would be a warm embrace from those you sacrificed everything for. But now, in the twilight of your life, you look around and see only empty chairs. You gave them your pension, your time, and your health. Yet when you need a simple conversation, they are too busy. You have become a transaction to your own children. You are not a parent anymore. You are a resource. And resources are consumed, not loved. You built a bridge over an abyss for them, but because they never had to build it themselves, they treat you like the ground they walk on, necessary, but invisible. Nature is ruthless but fair. It demands that every organism learn to survive on its own. When you remove the struggle from your children's lives, you are not being kind. You are genetically crippling them. By solving every problem, paying every debt, and cushioning every fall, you rob them of the adaptive stress required to build competence. Evolution does not reward comfort. It rewards capacity. When you shield them from the consequences of their own choices, you are not protecting them. You are disabling their ability to navigate reality. Consider the story of the devoted merchant who rebuilt his brother's houses and paid his nephew's debts, convinced that this was the highest form of morality. He believed his generosity would build a fortress of loyalty, but instead, it bred a nest of entitled dependency. His family stopped thanking him and started demanding his help as if it were a mandatory tax on his success. As the wise master warned him, if you feed birds every day without teaching them to fly, you become nothing more than a convenient branch they perch on while they wait for the next meal. You must understand that an unsolicited gift is often received as an insult to the recipient's capability. When you give without limits, you teach them that their incompetence will always be subsidized by your labor. You are not raising strong successors. You are cultivating parasites who will secretly resent you the moment the flow of resources stops. To truly love them, you must let them fail. Let them struggle, and let them find their own strength, even if it hurts you to watch. The most dangerous thing you can give a child is a life they did not earn. You have unknowingly signed an invisible contract with your own family, one where you are the provider and they are the consumers. You believe that by funding their lifestyles, paying their tuition, or handling their crises, you are securing their love and future loyalty. But, in reality, you are training them to view you as a utility, not a human being. The moment your utility ceases, when the money runs out or your energy fades, the contract is voided in their eyes. You are not building a relationship. You are paying a retainer for their attention, and the moment you stop paying, they stop showing up. Look at the dynamic that formed around the generous disciple. He rebuilt homes and funded lives, yet his family's gratitude quickly soured into expectation. His generosity became a baseline, a salary they felt entitled to simply for existing. When he gave, they felt nothing. When he stopped, they felt robbed. This is the tragedy of transactional love. It erases the human element. You become a vending machine, kicked when you malfunction, ignored when you work perfectly. You have commodified your own presence, teaching them that your value lies only in what you can transfer to them. The only way to break this invisible contract is to tear it up completely. You must stop buying their affection and start demanding their respect. Real connection thrives in the absence of transaction. If they only call when they need something, they are not calling you. They are calling your resources. You must be willing to be useless to them for a while. Only then will you see if there is any genuine bond left beneath the pile of receipts. If the relationship dies without your subsidies, let it die. It was never alive to begin with. The brutal truth of your standing in the tribe is revealed not when you are strong and giving, but when you are weak and needing. You can spend a lifetime being the pillar that holds up the roof, but the moment you crack, you will see who is actually standing there with you, who was just enjoying the shelter. The vulnerability test is the only metric that matters. It strips away the polite fictions of family duty and reveals the cold calculus of their investment in you. Remember the merchant who fell ill after years of boundless giving. For 8 days he lay in a fever, waiting for a single brother or nephew to bring him water or comfort. None came. The very people whose lives he had financed were too busy or simply indifferent. It was in that cold, silent room that he realized the horror of his mistake. Those who give without limits teach others to receive without conscience. His suffering was not a tragedy. It was a revelation. It showed him exactly where he stood. Allah 1. Do not wait for a catastrophe to test the structural integrity of your relationships. You must simulate the breakdown of the ATM before it actually happens. Withdraw your support now, while you are still strong enough to handle the silence that follows. Watch who stays when you have nothing to offer but your company. Watch who gets angry when the free ride ends. This painful clarity is necessary. It is better to know now that you walk alone than to find out on your deathbed when you are begging for a cup of water that never comes. You have been conditioned to believe that adding value requires adding more money, more help, more time. But in the laws of power and respect, scarcity drives value. If water is everywhere, it is wasted. If it is rare, it is worship. You must master the art of subtraction. You have to be willing to create a vacuum where your support used to be. This is not about being cruel. It is about letting gravity do its work. When you step back, the weight of their own lives finally falls on their shoulders, where it belongs. You cannot hold up the sky for them forever. Eventually, they must learn to stand or be crushed by their own lack of preparation. When the merchant finally gathered his family to announce he was cutting off the financial supply, the room did not fill with gratitude for his past decades of service. It filled with shock, anger, and accusations of betrayal. They called him rigid and ungrateful, rewriting history to paint the benefactor as the villain. This is the extinction burst of the parasite losing its host. Expect this anger. It is the sound of weakness leaving their bodies. The silence that follows will be heavy and uncomfortable, but it is the only space in which respect can begin to germinate again. You must hold the line. The withdrawal of your resources is the only way to reset the baseline of the relationship. Do not apologize for saving yourself. Do not explain your decision to people who are committed to misunderstanding you. Just stop. Let the checks bounce. Let the crises go unsolved by you. Let the silence stretch out until they realize that your presence was a privilege, not a right. You teach people how to treat you by what you stop tolerating. The moment you are no longer a utility, you force them to decide if you are a human being worth knowing. Deep down, you are terrified that if you stop being useful, you will cease to matter. You have tied your entire identity to your function. The provider, the fixer, the babysitter, the bank. You think you are earning love, but you are actually just paying rent for a space in their lives. This is the utility trap. When you are purely functional, you become invisible, like a refrigerator or a lamp. People only notice you when you stop working. You have stripped yourself of mystery and dignity in a desperate bid to be needed, forgetting that being needed is not the same as being wanted. There was a woman who spent her old age sewing, cooking, and cleaning for her son's family, believing her labor was the glue holding them together. But slowly, her acts of service became invisible expectations. She was not a grandmother. She was unpaid staff. When she asked for a single day off, she was met with annoyance, not concern. The ultimate insult came when they planned a trip and told her, didn't ask her, to stay behind and watch the house. She realized then that she was a tool to them, not a matriarch. She packed her bags and left, leaving no note, reclaiming her personhood from the jaws of her utility. You must transition from doing to being. Go where you are celebrated, not just tolerated. If your children only call you when they need a favor, you do not have a relationship. You have a transaction. Stop auditioning for the role of parent. You already got the part. Reclaim your time for things that have nothing to do with serving them. Paint, write, walk, sit in the sun. When you fill your own cup, you signal to the tribe that you are an independent entity with your own value, separate from what you can do for them. Be a guest in their lives, not a servant. There comes a moment in every relationship where your presence is no longer a gift, but an expectation. You stay in environments where you are criticized, managed, and treated like a child in your own home. You fear that leaving means you don't love them, or worse, that you will be alone. But the most powerful negotiation tactic you possess is your ability to walk away and mean it. When you stay in a house where you are disrespected, you are not keeping the peace. You are agreeing to your own humiliation. You must learn the difference between being useful and being welcome. Recall the woman who moved in with her son, thinking she would be a cherished matriarch, only to become an unpaid servant. When she was told, not asked, to watch the house while they vacationed, she realized she had lost her status as a mother and become a utility. She didn't fight. She didn't scream. She packed her bag in silence and returned to her own village to plant flowers and live in a small room. She chose the dignity of solitude over the misery of servitude. By leaving, she didn't just save herself. She taught them a lesson that her presence could never teach. You do not know the value of water until the well runs dry. The walk-away protocol is simple. Go where you are celebrated, not just tolerated. If you have to convince them to respect you, you have already lost. Pack your bags, metaphorically or literally. Reclaim your space, your time, and your autonomy. It is better to live in a small room where you are the queen than in a palace where you are a servant. When you remove your presence, you return the responsibility of their lives back to them. And often, it is only in your absence that they finally begin to see you as a person, rather than a function. You have been told that a good parent gives everything to their children, including their financial security. You hand over your savings, your property, and your pension, thinking this sacrifice proves your love. But money in old age is not just currency, it is sovereignty. When you give away your resources too early, you become a dependent. You trade your authority for vulnerability. You place your survival in the hands of people who are busy, stressed, and perhaps not as generous as you imagine. The wise merchant made the fatal error of distributing his wealth while he was still alive, thinking it would buy him care in his final days. Instead, it bought him neglect. Once the transaction was complete, his leverage was gone. He realized too late that a man with resources is the head of a family, but a man without them is a burden. It is a brutal truth of human nature. People respect those who have the power to say no, and money provides that power. Guard your resources. This is not greed, it is self-defense. Use your money to hire help if you need it, rather than begging your children for a ride to the doctor. Use your funds to enjoy your twilight years, to maintain your home, to keep your options open. If you leave an inheritance, let it be what is left over, not what you starved yourself to save. Your children are young and capable. They can earn their own way. You have already earned yours. Keep your shield up until the very end. You must undergo a final psychological metamorphosis. You have spent decades as the servant, the one who provides, fixes, and endures. Now, you must become the sovereign. The sovereign does not chase, he attracts. The sovereign does not buy affection, he commands respect through his presence. When the merchant finally stopped trying to buy his family's love with gold, he didn't disappear. He reinvented himself. He began to offer his wisdom instead of his wallet. He mentored the young, he advised the lost, and he shared his experience with those who actually asked for it. The dynamic flipped. The same relatives who had ignored him when he was desperate for their attention began to seek him out, not for money, but for guidance. By closing his purse, he opened their ears. You must realize that your value in this stage of life is not in your labor, but in your being. When you stop desperately trying to be useful to ungrateful people, you create the space to be valuable to the right people. You move from being a resource to being an elder. Remember the woman who left her son's home. When asked why she didn't stay where she was needed, she gave the ultimate declaration of sovereignty. I no longer want to live where I am useful. I want to live where I am welcome. Burn that into your mind. Useful is a commodity. Welcome is a relationship. Stop forcing your way into lives that view you as a utility. Build your own kingdom, no matter how small, and let them come to you. If they don't, you have your peace. If they do, you have their respect. We have walked the path from the tragedy of the useful parent to the freedom of the sovereign elder. You now understand that giving without limits is not love, it is the destruction of character. You know that your dignity is not negotiable and that your resources are your shield. The ancient master taught that the true gentleman cultivates himself to benefit others, but never at the cost of his own balance. To respect yourself is the first step in teaching others to respect you. The twilight of your life should not be spent waiting by a silent phone or begging for crumbs of attention from those you raised. It should be a time of harvest where you gather the fruits of your own peace. Walk with your head high. Do not apologize for your boundaries. Do not feel guilty for your silence. As the master said, the dignity of a man lies not in what he possesses, but in how he walks among others. Walk away from anything that makes you feel small. This is your life. It belongs to you, not your children, not your society, and not your past. Reclaim it. If you are ready to stop being a servant and start being a sovereign, if you are ready to choose dignity over dependency, then you are one of use. Subscribe to Aurelian Wisdom. The journey to self-mastery never ends.